All right, Homesteader family, welcome back to the journey. Welcome to this edition of the Sunday Monday vlog. Get the camera all set up. Hope everybody had a great week this week. I got some stuff accomplished, a lot of stuff I didn't get accomplished, and today I didn't get much accomplished. So far this week, got the grass mowed, cut up a bunch of wood, moved a bunch of fencing, worked up at the house site, got a bunch of that cleared, the underbrush, got the stumps cut out, got some wood up there moved, and that was pretty much it for this week. And Steve wanted to go to Junk Fest because here in Searcy County they do a Junk Fest, which is like a county-wide yard sale thing. I didn't really need anything, didn't want to spend money on that because I'm trying to save money for my house, get that ready to go. But then again, too, I'm thinking about doing the loan. So if I do a loan, then I'll have the money for a house, so that won't matter. So I did purchase one thing. It's an old axe. So the guy had several of these axes, but he said this head, you can see, is all textured and rusted. He found that head out in the woods, buried, and then he went and bought a handle and put a handle on it. So what am I going to do? It's going to be wall decor inside my house. So I did buy that for $15. Not a bad deal. The head alone probably is worth $15 because it's old, it's antique. Did that, went to town, I think once or twice to Marshall, and then once to Harrison, did my grocery shopping. This upcoming week, it's going to get busy. It's going to get really, really busy. So I have the Quorum Court tomorrow, which is October 9th, Monday. It's the second Monday of the month. So I'll be going out there at 7 o'clock to film that for the county and for some of you that are watching the Quorum Courts. Tuesday, I should have a visitor, as long as there's no breakdowns or anything on the road. He's coming in. He's been watching my channel since 2016 when I started. We've become good friends over the phone. Never met in person, so this is going to be first time in person. He's making a cross-country road trip. He's stopping, I believe, in North Carolina, South Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, here, and then he's going out to Texas. So he's looking at all different states. He's really thinking about moving to Arkansas, but he does want to look at a couple different places in the couple different states that he's driving through. So he's going to check out the area, check out the feel, the vibe, see if he likes there or if he likes here or what have you. But I'm really excited because he's in his 60s now, and he always says that he wishes he had more of my risk taking, because I just pick up and move, pick up and go, pick up, start a new idea, start a new thing, snowball stand, so on and so forth. I have no hesitation. And he said he needs a mix between him and me, because he's got no, he's got all the hesitation in the world and doesn't want to take a risk. And I'm the most risk-taking person in the world that he knows. So he said if he had in between, it'd be perfect. But he's finally coming out of his shell. He's taking this trip. He's talked about moving to Colorado back when I lived in Colorado, and then would say, I'm going to come out on a vacation and check out parts of Colorado. That never happened. And for the last 3+ years that I've been here in Arkansas, he's been saying each year he's going to take vacation, come out and visit and check out Arkansas, because now I'm living in Arkansas. And so I have all different people out there. They like to follow me and decide, do I want to go here? Do I want to go there based on where I am? I don't understand why. But like I said, Searcy County, that's not just a me factor. That's the community here. That's the way of thinking here, the life here. It appeals to a lot of people. So not that I want 1 million people in here, because I'm already starting to see Searcy County act like the south side of Cotopaxi, where I first lived. When I went out there, there was, I think, 3 or 4 lights I saw in the valley when I was in my hobo tarp tent, from the people that actually lived there. And it wasn't just vacation places where they came out for a week or during hunting season or things like that, to where I saw several dozen lights, the pot growers that were below me with the fans running 24/7, water pumps making noises, lights, them down there, everything else, all hours of the night, 1 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock at night, so on and so forth. So, I don't quite want all that happening, and that's another reason why I'm going larger and larger and larger when I'm buying pieces of property, because from the beginning of 2.5 acres to the 50-acre ranch to now 120-acre homestead. Now, of course, I'm cutting off some of the land from the 120 acres. Right now, like I said, I'm under contract for the 30. If they don't renew that, then I'm actually going to accumulate some of the land back, and I'm going to pay to have it resurveyed again and sell a smaller piece of the land, because I don't want to sell 30. Because I actually want a little bit more now that Steve's out here, because then he's taking some of the land. So we'll see how that all goes. But Searcy County, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no, six new places that are going up right now that I see, just between the restaurant, the homestead, and going to Harrison. So there's that many that I can see, and I've had people say they're putting up houses here, and they live out by Bruno or Pyatt or wherever the different places are. So I know there's a lot more houses being built, places going up, people moving in, and that's what it's starting to feel like. Is we all were 2.5 acres on Southside Cotopaxi. People just neighborhooded up. Now, 2.5 acres, you still have a decent amount of space, but the noise and lights at night, I like a dark sky, things like that, it all moves in. So we'll see how it's going to go, but I know, like I said, with the living here, the way of life, the community, the rules, the regulations, or their lack of, no building permits and stuff like that if you buy certain areas, that's a big sell right now, because every state seems to be taking all of your freedoms away, your liberties away, and they're adding more expense, more rules and regulations, and that's a big draw for Searcy County, because you don't need all that stuff. You don't have to spend all that extra money. Another reason why I have multiple places, because I'm contributing in tax money, and I know more and more people are coming this way. So that is what I have coming up this week, is the Quorum Court visitor, and then I'm probably still going to do some work, because he's going to go out and look at different places. I'm not sure. He's talked about plugging in here at the restaurant, so he might be on the pad just outside. And he's also talked about camping out on the homestead. So I don't know where he's going to be, and I don't know what all is entailed in his schedule. He's got like 2.5, 3 weeks, but that's not just here. I think here he's going to be here for, I think, 5 to 7 days. So I'll spend some time with him. Sometime he'll be out on his own. So the times that he's out doing something, then I'll be at the homestead getting stuff done. And that takes us into the title of this video, which is Don't Forget About the Steps. When we think of goals, when we think of dreams, we picture the entire dream. We picture the entire goal. We don't think about the steps. And I wanted to get this out there and get your mind thinking, like I always try to do, try to get you to see it another way, or see something you don't see and point it out. And that is the different steps it takes. It's like a staircase. You don't go from here to a multi-billionaire overnight, if that's your goal and your dream, unless you inherit it. Now, if you inherit it, then yes, you can go from bottom to top, no steps needed. Most of us are not that way. Most of us are not going to just get things handed to us. Most of us are going to have to suffer and struggle and have tears and bloodshed and everything else to get to that goal, to get to that dream, to get where we want to be. And in that process, it's all the steps. So you might hit your shin on one step, you might bust your kneecap on the next step, you might roll an ankle on the third step, but eventually you get to the top of the steps, and all those injuries, all that pain, all that heartache, bloodshed, and everything else doesn't matter at that point. Why? Because we're at the high. We got where we want it to be. Now, when you're thinking about these goals and dreams, you also have to have that purpose. And that purpose is that goal or dream. But if we focus on the end product and we don't focus on the steps, we can lose hope. We can lose happiness. We can go into depression. We can sink back to it's so far away. It's so far out of reach that it feels like it's never going to happen. For example, all the fencing I have to do, all the work that needs to be done on the homestead for me to have my end goal, end dream. Now, we all know our great-grandparents right there, or my grandparents, my grandfather I took care of, they never hit their goals. Why? Because we always add more goals. Or like my grandmother always tells me from Colorado, I just keep sticking irons in the fire. Well, you keep sticking irons in the fire, you're never going to have no goals whatsoever, no dreams. You always have something that you're fighting towards. But going towards my homestead, my whole goal and dream is have a house built, have the pens built, have the barn built, an orchard, vegetable gardens, honeybees, flower gardens, swimming hole, ponds, ponds with fish. The fire will get smothered in iron. No, DT, I'm looking for a liquid iron fire. See, you just got to think out of the box. And then it's like molten lava. So, it just works. And you just pull out knives because it's already been done and made for you. But because I have all those visions, all those goals, all those dreams, and I lack the financial part of it, it can get defeating sometimes because I can't just get it all done. Let alone time. I have plenty of time, but in the same time, I don't have enough time because I can't fence the entire property in one day. I can't build my house in a second day. I can't do all the orchards and gardens the third day and be moved on to the homestead within a week. It doesn't work that way. So we have to look at the steps. Alien Iron Works Corporation. Good industrial idea. No. Humans wouldn't know how to use the alien molten steel. It's an alien thing. Humans it just doesn't work. But during those steps that I'm talking about is like today. You saw the picture of all the fence piled up, all the rolls of fencing ready to go. So I set my alarm for 7 o'clock this morning. Woke up 7 o'clock. My neck and my back was spasming. It was still cold out. I was exhausted and said, nope, I'm going to bed. Going back to bed. So I went back to bed and I didn't wake up till 12:05 this afternoon. Woke up with a bad headache, which it's coming back right now. And you feel that defeat because you think of that goal, you think of that dream, you do so much, but yet you never make progress or enough progress for yourself. What's up, Johnny? It's a good thing you're a homesteader because World War III is shaping up. Yes and no, Chris. I mean, I've had conversations with Steve about that. Homesteading is for life now. I'll get into that after this. But so I woke up with a headache. I didn't want to do nothing, but I felt I got to take a step. One more step is one less step that I have to take getting to that goal. So by stacking up the rolls of fence today, by walking through all the brush and picking up all the T-posts that I had laid out to come all the way down Gregory Lane, because now I can't afford to do that. So I need those T-posts to go halfway down through the homestead. So I have to collect all the T-posts. Didn't want to climb through all the brush, the tall grass covered in ticks, but it had to get done. So when you're thinking of your goals and you're thinking of your dreams, you've got to take a step. Even if it's an hour a day, even if it's 15 minutes a day, you got to remember, we only have a small amount of time we're on this planet. So every day, every hour, every minute, every second that you procrastinate and you don't do anything, or you sleep until 12:05 like me because you're hurting, you don't want to get out of bed and you're exhausted. If you don't push yourself, if you don't at least take some type of step, then you're still on the same step that you've been sitting on, that you're standing on. You're not making any new progress. So by today, if I would have woken up at 7 and got out the door instead of going back to bed, that's another half a day I could have got things done. At the same time, you also got to listen to your body. And if your body's hurting, you're going to have to recuperate. So it's a half dozen this way, half dozen that way. Do you push it and make it worse, or do you not get any work done, which in the long run makes it worse because then you're further out? But when you have a goal, when you have a dream, you've got to take a step. Whether, like I said, it's an hour a day, 15 minutes a day, couple minutes, whatever you do now, today, you don't have to do tomorrow. And tomorrow, you're closer to reaching the top of the staircase. So that's just something you want to think about. Now, Chris, back to you on your thing with the World War III. And this will be a side thing, not the main title of the video, but I want you guys to think of this as well. So from me being in the military and doing survival school and things like that, a lot of civilians, unless you've been in law enforcement, military, stuff like that, you don't go through any extra type of training in your life because you're not doing anything that requires it. Most of you that don't go to do Black Ops or survival school or things like that, SEER training, you're not going to know a lot of this stuff either unless you Google it. And I mean, they have some of the military training things on television, but most of them are cushioned, like the celebrity one that I'm watching right now. But homesteading, everybody thinks if you homestead, you can survive. And this is where preppers get things wrong. This is where homesteaders get stuff wrong. This is where survivalists get stuff wrong. You need a multitask on all fronts in order to go through a situation or scenario if things get totally bad. You know, I'm talking civil unrest, there's no law, people are burning things down, looting on a mass scale, not just in cities like Ferguson or, you know, the different events that we've had. So if all that's happening, you're not homesteading. Why? Because if there's no grocery stores, if there's no food to go get, where are people going? If they're robbing and looting and doing all their stuff. Hey, happy camper, how you doing tonight? So in that aspect, you've got to realize there's a father and he's got 2 kids. The kids are starving. Is the father going to let the kids starve? Or is he going to come into your garden, your homestead, and take food to feed his kids? Yeah, you could protect your land and you could prevent that from happening. But what happens when there's no rule of law, no 911, and you have a group of marauders that are 20, 40, 50, 60 people deep? You're not doing it on your own. And this is the conversation I've had with Steve, is a lot of people think, oh, if I homestead, if I can grow seeds into vegetables to do canning, it doesn't matter if grocery stores are around because I can survive. What a lot of people aren't thinking is the criminal side, rather be on my farm than city during a riot. Yes, Chris, that's true. It's better to be on farm. But if you're thinking World War III, that civil unrest and everything's going to happen all the way through, you're not going to be on your farm. Look at overseas right now between Ukraine and Russia. People aren't just sitting on their acreage because there's landmines put around, there's people robbing, stealing, everything else. So in those situations, you kind of want to be a prepper or you kind of want to be a survivalist. But then those things can be bad too, because in my training, what you need to do in those situations, if something like that's coming through and just there's no rule of law, no 911, and people coming out and they don't care what they're doing to people, then at that point you're on a constant move. You're going to be just like a herd of deer where they don't stay in one spot their whole life. They go and graze, they go find water, they go all over the place. They don't stay in one location. And that's the survival training that I went through, is you're going to be on a constant move. Just like when you get behind enemy lines, you can't just stay in one spot and wait for somebody to come rescue you. You're constantly moving. You're constantly getting to a new location because there's search teams coming out and looking for you on the other side that you don't want to be a prisoner of war. So in those cases, you have these preppers that they prep all the food. Like I've showed you, I've got food and stuff here. If you have to bug out, since that's the term they use, saw a lot of Jewish people getting ganged up on mobs of one man versus 200 men. See, that's what I'm talking about, Chris. Things like that, you're not going to be able to stand by yourself. And that's why, like with preppers, they have all this stuff stocked up. And they think, oh, if I have 10 years worth of food here, I'm golden. I don't have to worry about nothing. I can survive for 10 years. Well, what happens when you're that one guy and 200 guys come to take the 10 years of food supply? You can't put 10 years of food supply on your back in a backpack and hike out into the woods to get away from them. That's where prepping, homesteading, and survivalism is for now. Or actually, I should say homesteader and prepper. Survivalist is basically what you're going to be doing in a way if everything gets that bad. Like I said, I don't think it's going to get that bad. If you look through all of the generations, through all the thousands and thousands of years, every year is doomsday. Every civilization is going to collapse. Now, yes, they do collapse. China collapsed. UK collapsed. The Roman Empire collapsed. But if you look, it's not every generation. I think the Roman Empire was like 400 or 500 years. So all those generations never saw a collapse. So the odds of you being at that exact time for that collapse is pretty rare if you think about it. And not just that, you also have to look at during that collapse or what happens, you have to be in the worst possible position. Because just like World War II, World War I, and any other war you want to talk about, it's normally a very, very small location, and it may be spread out like through Europe. It was spread out throughout Europe. But there were still some country farms that weren't affected by it, or troops come in and they take all your food, they take all your horses, which we've seen in movies and things like that. And that's another thing I talked about last week with the government coming in and saying eminent domain and we take all your stuff. Another reason why I don't have stuff paid off and why I stay in debt, because if stuff gets taken from me that's in debt, well, guess what? I didn't own it anyhow. And if you do pay all your debts off and get out of debt, which everybody talks about, and that stuff gets taken, then you've lost everything you worked for your entire life. So in my mind, I live on the survivalist kind of mindset. I look at it as if I get too far in debt and I lose everything, I've lost everything before. 2011, when my house got foreclosed on that I bought when I was 19, uh, lost vehicles, lost trailers, um, and ended up in a hobo tarp tent. And I slowly built myself back up over time. It's still taking a long time, but I'm getting to where I'm comfortable almost again. And I look at it, if I lost everything, the survivalist in me goes right back to I can do it again. So these are just ideas you might want to think about. During Great Depression, it worked out because people had morals, and nowadays people are ruthless. You say that, Chris, but people, there was a lot of bad stuff that happened during the Great Depression. It wasn't all morals. Just like Gerald Celente always says, when people lose everything, they lose it. During Great Depression, there was a lot of crime. There was a lot of murders and things like that, because it goes back to the aspect of food. The number one killer on this planet is food, starvation. And it doesn't matter how good your morals are, how good of a person you are. If you have children, you're not going to let them starve. You're not going to watch your child die. How many people have you seen that go into hospitals and they do stupid things because they don't want their loved one not to get treatment, or the ones that just lose it? These are the things that we've seen throughout all generations, from beginning of time to where we are now. And that's where now, while there's not civil collapse, is a good time to homestead. Now is a good time to prep, because if you have food storage, then you're not dealing with a high inflation because you've got the food you can live on now. If you lose your job right now, which Amazon, Disney, the yellow trucking, everything else, look at how many people have lost their jobs. If they were a prepper and they had 10 years worth of food right now, well, guess what? Food is one of the highest costs to live right now, minus your rent or car payments, things like that. So if you had to downsize from, say, a $800,000 house that gets repossessed or foreclosed on because you lose your job, you can't make payments, but you have $10,000 saved up or $5,000 saved up, and you do what I did in 2011, sell everything you have, buy 2.5 acres of land, and put a hobo tent on it, which is another reason why a lot of people are coming to Searcy County, Arkansas, is because you can camp on your land. Fremont County, Colorado, you can't camp on your land permanently. A lot of places you can't camp on your land permanently. So that's another reason why people are moving to these areas, is because if you lose your job, if you lose your house, you lose your car, you can at least survive. You can go into survivalist mode and say, hey, while I was making $5,000 a month, I was buying freeze-dried food, or I was buying ramen noodles, or I was buying canned goods, and I stocked up 10 years worth of food, rice and beans, noodles, whatever you did, for a bad time, and you lose your job, just like everybody at Yellow and everything else. If you can't find new employment right away, how do you feed your children? Do you want to go to that risk of, I'm going to have to do something criminal to feed my family and take a risk of going to jail? Because civilly, we're still in society. There's still rule of law and enforcement's a rule of law. Or would you rather prep and have all that food set aside, so that way, if you lose everything, you can at least survive off of your food until you can come up with the next situation? Same thing, like I said, with me selling all my stuff, buying the 2.5 acres to camp on. at least you have a place that's yours, a place that you're not over mortgaged, a place that you don't have to come up with money to pay a monthly mortgage or bills or so on and so forth. It may not be pleasant. You may not have electricity, running water, things like that. And then when you do get some money, you can do what I did and get the oil lamps, and then you have some light, and then you save up some money or find a way to get some money together and get a water container and then gutters and make a roof, and then you can start taking showers and baths and stuff like that and rebuild yourself over time like I have since 2011. Then you can kick it into higher gear if you want to be better than a prepper, because a prepper buys everything. Good call out, Chris. I agree. Depends on your community, though. Yep, you're right, Norman. But if you want to take it a step farther, then right now, while there is rule of law and enforcement of the law, and it's still a society, then you take what you can now before you lose it, before it's repossessed, before it's foreclosed, and you sell it, and you buy that piece of land now, and you farm it. You put gardens in. You get some rabbits, or some chickens, or some goats, or in my case, some camels, and you start setting yourself up for the long game, where not only are the preppers spending all this money on freeze-dried and all that, but as a homesteader, you can produce it on your own land. So then you're not spending all that money and needing all that storage. You can get fresh food every year, as long as you don't have droughts and disease and insects and predators and rabbits and things that devastate your stuff, and before, say, a civil collapse happens. That's where you want to multitask. You want to be part prepper, you want to be part homesteader, you want to be part survivalist, because you have the survivalist mindset, so you think about all the steps. Just like this video talking about, you got to think of the steps from the bottom to your goal, or from the bottom to civil collapse. What are the steps before you get there, that you can live a better life until you get there? Then when you get there, everything's works down the drain because you're going somewhere else. But like I said, like Roman Empire, all those generations lived under Rome without that collapse, without a new government or a new country coming in. So we may never see World War III. And the reason I say that is because of all the internet, of all the television shows, we are taught and told over and over and over. And if you think about all these different YouTube channels, I watch these channels, and they just talk about it all the time. Same thing with all the issues like Tractor Supply and the chicken feed. I never made a video on that because everybody in the world does it. And then you watch 30 videos of the same thing, of the same fear. Oh my God, World War III, World War III. But is it going to happen in our lifetime? I don't think it will. And you may doubt it, but I remember in 1992, 94, somewhere back when I was a little kid, I was over at my neighbor's house, and all of our parents got together and they played Mexican Train and drank and partied and all that stuff. And all us kids went down the basement. And I remember them all talking about World War III back in the early 90s, and how something was going to spark with Russia and all that different stuff. And there was different things on the news. And then Iraq was going off, I believe, around that time in 92. I don't know for sure, but I think it was around that time too. And I remember the little kids younger than me crying and stuff and scared and worried about war because they're hearing all the parents upstairs talking about it. And, you know, they were worried about World War III back in the early 90s. They were worried about World War III back during the Cold War in the 80s, before I was born. So World War III has been going on. I'm 36, so it's been going on for more than 36 years. Let's hope not. That seems every corner of the globe is ready to ignite. That's true. That's also true, Norman. And Steve asked me what I thought about the whole Israel thing going on right now. And you also got to think, is it what they're trying to get to? Are they doing the Georgia Guidestones from down in Florida? That's not a conspiracy theory. Anybody can look up Georgia Guidestones. It's a set of rocks down in Georgia. And it says a bunch of stuff about eliminating the population and stuff like that. So you could dive down a million different rabbit holes, which if you start watching all the different channels, you can go really far down rabbit holes. Okay. I did not know that, Norman. So see, that shows you how much of the rabbit holes I follow and stuff like that, because I didn't even know that happened. But you can take that, it wasn't conspiracy theory because the stones were there. But you can look at Israel had whatever happened to them a couple days ago. And I watched some of the channels at fear. And then you're seeing these channels, we got to do this, we got to do that. And now they're comparing what's happened in Israel to what happened in 2001 up in New York. And in my mind, like I told Steve, I could be completely wrong, but this is another way to look at things, is we fund everything. The bankers, the rich, they fund everything. And we know this because, or I know this because when I was at Lackland Air Force Base, where I went through basic training, where I went through tech school, where I went through survival school, there was pictures of bin Laden. There were pictures of Saddam Hussein doing training in America. We train them, then they're our enemies. All the different things, they go back and forth. They call it an October surprise. They're parading around. Yep. And in my mind, Chris, because we fund everything, because we control everything, my thought on the whole Israel thing is we got that started as well. If you look at Libya, we did that. Iraq, Afghanistan, we did all that. Like I said, some people say conspiracy theories. Some say rabbit holes. Some say the truth. Some say it's a lie. But in my mind, that's what they're doing. They're starting all these conflicts around the world to try to get us to back a new all-out war. And that's the problem. Yeah, I don't think so, Happy Camper. Good try, though. But they tried that with Ukraine, and they saw that the American people didn't want to send all our troops over to Ukraine and do that. So in my mind, what's the next best thing? Well, there's a lot of church people in America. There's a lot of people that believe Israel is the top dog, holy-wise, and that we need to take care of them. So if we compare that to what happened in 2001 in America that cracked our hearts, whether you believe the line of who did it or why it was done or how it was done or if it even happened. Like I said, rabbit holes, conspiracy theories. But when they're yanking at the heartstrings and saying it's what happened in America, and I'm watching these channels that they're like, we need to go over there. We need to protect them. We need to do this. We need to do that. I think if they do enough of the conflicts, eventually they're going to draw America into it. And when America gets into it, then that's when it's going to be all out. What we need to do, and this is my belief only, everybody has their own opinions, everybody has their own ideas, but we should stay out of everybody's business. We have how many bases around the world? We shouldn't be there. Different countries have bases around the world. They shouldn't be there. They're trying to break all borders. They're trying to break all barriers because they want everybody feuding over everything. They want everybody feuding across. And you no longer have your traditional war, your traditional values, where America stands for one thing, Denmark stands for one thing, Italy stands for one thing. That's why the mass immigration, where they're pushing all the different cultures into each country and dissolving the borders, is changing the whole world as we see it, as we know it, as we've lived through it. Whether you're 5 years old, 50 years old, or 100 years old, the world is not what you grew up in. The world is rapidly changing. And by the internet, like YouTube, by TVs, by radio, by newspaper, or any printed things that are starting to have a somewhat of a comeback, even though most things are digital now, then everybody sees this. You turn on your TV, conflict, 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 death, 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 war, 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 starvation, starvation, starvation. Same thing with the whole everybody losing jobs. Oh, there's no toilet paper on the shelves at Walmart. You know, everything is done, in my mind, on purpose. Because if that wasn't force-fed 24 hours a day and blatantly looking at it and reading it, you would never know. Just like with Norman talking about the Georgia Guidestones that apparently aren't there anymore. I don't know that. Why? Because I didn't follow that. That was 2 years ago. So if I would have paid attention, if I watched all the time, I would have known that. Same thing like I've said in multiple videos over all these years is if you turn off the YouTube, if you turn off the television, if you turn off the news and you don't read nothing, you don't look at nothing, and you just live your life, you don't know what's going on around the world. You're not scared of the next big thing. You're not living in fear or buying a bunch of canned goods because you think tomorrow is doomsday. If you live your life for today, tomorrow doesn't matter. Same thing with people that say with cancer and things like that. If you're going to be sick or you're not going to be able to live that long, you live your life now. You don't live your life thinking you got 20 years, because if you know you're not going to get 20 years, you quit that job now. You take that trip around the world tomorrow. You tell your loved ones you love them. You make time for the ones you want to spend the last bit of time with. Do that for 2 weeks and then turn on the news, turn on the YouTube, turn on the radio and listen to all the stuff again. And within hours, your mind is back to there's a new war coming. There's a new food shortage coming. There's a new, whatever the new bad case, whatever's happening is going to happen. Technology is destroying us. Going back to my great-grandfather, like I always say, change is 90% bad, 10% good. Technology's been one of the worst things. The 10% good, we're able to be connected to loved ones that are far apart from us. However, watching all this constant war, constant fear, constant scaring, that's not good for you. That's not healthy for you. That's not making you happy. When we're looking at all of the bad things, we get into depression. We lose our happiness. We look at defeat. Like a rich person told me a long, long time ago that I worked for when I was a kid. He was a multimillionaire coin dealer. Did rare antique coins from Roman Empire and things like that. And he told me, if I wanted to be successful, you find 10 people that are richer than you because they made it there. They have the attitude to be there. They had the mindset to be there. But if you put 10 druggies, meth heads, whatever you want to call them, tweakers around you, there's no motivation for you. There's no mindset there for you. It's only going to pull you down. So like crabs in a bucket that I've talked about, where crabs are constantly pulling the crab down that wants to get out the pot. You want to be that crab reaching for that higher standard. Same thing with YouTube, TV, radio. If you're sitting there watching all the negative stuff, then you might as well go hang out with a bunch of crackheads, tweakers, what have you, because that's all it's doing. It's pulling you down. But if you're watching these channels on YouTube or on the news, well, not news, because they don't do a lot of positive stuff, but if you're watching stuff that encourages you, like I watch mountain men, I watch Alaskan bush people when they did things. I watch different things that you're watching people with nothing. Yes, they're making money on TV, so it's not all real. You got to get that through your head too. Things on television, things on YouTube are not always real. Like I said, all these people make homesteading look like unicorns and rainbows. That is the most perfect thing, but you don't see that struggle. Same thing with the TV shows that I watch. You know, they start with nothing and they build up really fast. Why? They're getting $10,000 an episode, so they have the money to do it. Why isn't my property fenced? Why aren't my barns built? Why isn't my house built? I'm not getting paid $10,000 a month from YouTube or from subscribers to do that. Just like the big YouTube channels that have subscriptions and everything, that they had thousands of people subscribing, paying $1.99 a month. Well, that's money they got to go buy the newest fancy tractor, the newest Scottish Highlander bull, and so on and so forth, and grow their empire. But you got to look at those things and look at the positivity of those different shows and different YouTube channels that, just like a lot of people tell me, I try to be positive in most of my videos. I try to say positive things for different things. And that's like Robin Williams. You know, that's where I get it from. I want to get that positivity. I want you to think outside the box. Just like my boomer that's coming out here on Tuesday. He's been following me since 2016. Over 5 years. That's 5 years of his life he's lost grinding that 9-to-5 job. And one of the worst things he hates is taking 3 hours to get to work on the highway to go so many miles because of inner city traffic. Think if he would have taken that risk back in 2016. All those hours of all those days, of all those weeks, of all those months, of all those years now, added up, what could he have done with that time? And what could you be doing with your time if you got a homestead, or got a beach house, or got a New York City flat, if that's your decision on where you want to go, what you want to do? If you don't take that risk, if you don't take that step, next step, next step, next step to get to your goal, to get to your dream, you're never going to be there. Like I said, he's been following me since 2016, and he's just now taking that step of coming out to look at something. He's just now realizing, now that he's in his 60s, he's running out of time. He's just now realizing in his 60s, he's had some injuries to his body that takes longer to recoup. He realizes now in his 60s that he might not be able to do what he used to be able to do. And he better take advantage of that time now. I don't want you guys, nor me, to lose that opportunity, to lose that chance at finding your happiness in the short amount of time we have on this planet. You've got to take those steps. You've got to take those movements. You've got to get away from the negativity. You've got to, I know being in a bubble, being happy is not going to stop anything from coming. I understand that. But whatever time you have now, whether that negativity comes, whether the civil collapse happens, whether World War III happens, whether an asteroid hits us, whether a tornado comes through your town, whether a hurricane hits your shore, or earthquake sucks up your house, or it goes down into a sinkhole. Those are different things you can't control. You can't stop World War III. You can't stop civil unrest. You can't stop the hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, and sinkholes. But you can live. You can live, not survive. You can live. When those things happen, you survive. Until those times, you want to live. Find that happiness. Find that positivity. Find that reason to be here. Find that reason to live and not just survive. Make that move, whether it's to a city, to the country, to the beach, to a boat house, wherever you find your happiness, go there. Do what you want to do. Do your thing. If you want to go camp on land in Searcy County, Arkansas, because you plan to build your homestead here, then do that. If you want to go to Cotopaxi, Colorado, and buy a ranch out there and build your house, build your life, go there. If you want to go to Los Angeles and live in LA and be able to go to all the clubs and burger joints and food places and things like that, then do that. But if you don't take that leap of faith, if you don't live on the razor's edge like I do, then you're going to be like my boomer in Massachusetts that all these years since 2016, he's never even went out of that bubble. He never went out to see what was possible, what he could have done. And then a lot of people, they're not like my boomer, where he's stepping out that bubble. He's taking that risk now. A lot of people get to the end of their life, or to the point they're too crippled and can't do anything, in a wheelchair, bedridden, so on and so forth, and they lay there with regrets. A lot of people say they don't have regrets, but I guarantee every single person has a regret. If you don't have a regret, then when you're sitting in silence somewhere or laying in bed, you have no thoughts on your mind on what life could be like this, what life could be like that. We all have those moments. We all have those regrets. The only way to change is by changing. The only way to make things happen is by doing something to make it happen. If you sit at your 9-to-5 job, if you sit on your couch all day and you don't do anything to go anywhere or do anything to take that first step towards that goal, that dream that you have, then you're still going to be at the bottom of the hallway. You're never going to make it to the top of the stairs. And that's all I can say. And that's all I have for you guys, is only you can make it happen. Only you can decide whether you survive this life and just scrape by and not have your happiness, or you thrive and live and find that happiness. As of freedom and liberty and all that type of stuff that a lot of people out there want, we don't live in those times anymore. There's some, but you're never going to find what they used to have. We're in the time where everything's been discovered on the planet. It's not like we're in the Old West on the wagon trails trying to find the new big thing. And we're too soon to be on the spaceships, like some of aliens that use, to explore the other galaxies, to explore new worlds. We're in between. So you've got to not be in between by just sitting at that 9 to 5 job and not go explore, or too scared to go out and do something new and make something happen. Only you can do it. Only I can do it. Like I said, sleep till 12:05 today, and I could have got work done. But what did I do? I went out and worked for a few hours this afternoon. Because everything I do, every T-post I can move, every branch I can pick up, every log I cut for firewood today is one I don't have to do tomorrow. It gets me closer to my end goal and frees me up to put a new iron in the fire to add another goal on top of that goal, on top of that goal, just to go higher and higher. So with that, I hope everybody has a great week. I appreciate everybody joining in, all the thumbs up and sharing. I do have a couple things coming up in the next couple weeks. I'm not going to spoil anything. Not sure when I'm going to talk about it. But I do have some big things getting ready to happen, some surprises. So I'll be getting into that. And I hope everybody takes some of my words, whether it's in your mind is wisdom or just BS, or it doesn't matter. And I hope you find your happiness. I hope you find your purpose. I hope you find a goal and dream suitable for you to go after and find inner peace and just get out there and do your thing. So with that, I hope everybody has a great upcoming week. And like always, great stream. Thank you, Norman. I appreciate it. And everybody's comments that I didn't get to, there were so many going through. So I appreciate you guys. If you want to make comments on the video after it uploads, then of course I respond to all of those. But the chat, it just goes so fast now. But with that, like always, live happy, live free. That's the only way to be. That's why that's my slogan. It's true. Live happy, live free. That's the only way to be. And I'll see you guys next week. Take care.